It's a beautiful Tuesday afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us again right here on Your Viewpoint. I am Rotimi Akintoye. This program is sponsored by Integrated Communication Services. And of course, what we do on this program is to encourage moral values and provide possible solutions to societal issues. Today, we're looking into toxic relationships. And of course, we want to look at how to deal or handle relationships that are toxic. Now, research has it that a lot of persons are in toxic relationships, and of course they do not have an idea that they are in these relationships. Now, some persons are there, but they do not know how to handle or deal with it. In fact, they do not know how to get out of it. But then we will look into all of these things and see how we can provide solutions to the questions. I have in the studio with me an emotional wellness expert. She's been here before. Titilola Olufemi, thank you for joining us again.
Thank you. Good to be here.
I also have a reverend and of course a relationship counselor. That's Reverend Harrison Ifeanyichukwu. It's good to have you on the program.
Thank you.
All right, both of them have been here before. We've been able to talk about some other issues in the past. Today, as I said before, we're looking into toxic relationships. And the first thing that comes to mind is the word toxic. And you start to think that, okay, do we really have something like that? But then people hear toxic, what comes to their mind is physical damage, physical or violent issues. What exactly? Starting with the lady, they say ladies first. Yes. What exactly should we consider as toxic relationship?
All right. Thank you very much once again. From the word itself, from the word toxic, we can see that toxic actually means something harmful, something not so good, something damaging. So when you are now in a relationship that is toxic, that means you are in a harmful or damaging relationship. Okay? So when we also look at toxic relationship has to do with how damaging it is. It's unhealthy kind of relationship that is damaging to yourself, and it's damaging to your self-esteem and your value. And oftentimes toxic relationship, it's not physically felt. So that's why a lot of people might be in a toxic relationship and may not know that they are in a toxic relationship. So it has to do with more of the emotional damage, more of the impact that it has on people emotionally.
All right, when we talk about relationships, we're going to be looking beyond romantic relationships now, because what comes to mind is romance when people talk about relationships. Yes, to clear that, we're going to look at parent-child, we're going to look at marriages, we're going to look at even workers, people who work together in different places. Now, let us look at, is it possible to get to know if a relationship is going to be toxic? Or it's when you get into that relationship, you get to find out that, oh, this relationship is toxic. If you want to get, so let's start with a romantic relationship, for instance. Okay, I have somebody I want to date. She's looking good and all of that. And how do I know? Is it possible?
If we look at relationships, like I used to say, relationship is not relating to a ship. S-H-E-E-P. It is relating in a ship.
Okay.
S-H-I.
Yes, ship. Yes.
Why do I say that?
Okay.
You are in the ship. When the word ship comes to your mind, you look at the ocean, the sea, and things like that. Now, everybody have a role to play for that ship to dock. If you don't play your role, the ship will crash. Now, what am I saying? There are danger signals at the gate. If you want to embark or board a ship, there are danger signals. The same thing in relationship, there are danger signals. For instance, I asked a young lady, what makes you think this guy cares? He said, he buys me this, does this to me, does that to me. I said, have you ever watched what he does to other people? Those are signals. Those are red flags. Not what he does to you. I'm winning you. If I'm winning you, I'm not going to treat you bad. But how does he treat his brothers, his sisters, the people that are under him? Those are pointers of what, remember, you have not entered. Because if you want to say what are the signs in the relationship already, it's a different ball game, but you are still at the gate. What will you see? That is one example. The way this guy treats others around him, or this girl, or this boss. Remember, we are going beyond romantic relationship.
Yes, absolutely.
So the way this guy treats the people under him, we give you an overview who he or she is.
Okay. In that regard, we cannot remove the issue of temperament. Now, when you say you're looking at how it treats people outside, the person he or she wants to get engaged with. What about a case whereby...
Sorry, not the person he wants to get engaged with.
Yes, somebody you want to date, you want to be with, somebody you want to love, you want to...
The person I'm talking about
Yes.
is, I want to date her.
Okay.
If she wants to look for danger signals about me,
yes,
what she should do is she will look at people that I have power over. My younger sister.
Yes, that's where I'm going.
My mother.
Yes, absolutely. What I'm trying to say now is that I'm trying to look at temperament, people's nature.
Okay.
The way people react. You see, most of the time we talk about, oh, that is me, that is you, that's how I behave, that's how I talk. I don't mean any harm. What do you have to say to that?
The 4 major temperaments are actually works in every life. 4 of them: the sanguine, the melancholy, the choleric, and the phlegmatic. Now, if you look at those temperaments, we have different shades of them, and it can be learned. The 4 temperaments can be learned. Somebody say, "This is me." There are 2 types of app on this phone: the downloadable app and the system app. The system app cannot be deleted. That person said, "This is me," but it can be upgraded. That person can upgrade that him that is toxic, which means I went to school, I went to seminars, I am going to learn things that will make me better. To make me a better me, there is always a better me. So for you to bring that to the table that this is me, I think I have problem with that. Because that system app can be upgraded to something better. If not, the entire phone will crash.
All right, let me go to Titilola. Let's look at types of toxic relationships. Let's look at a number of relationships that will have, those signs, the slightest signs of toxic relationships. What are those things that you should look out for? If, for instance, you are in that relationship already, whether you are in a romantic relationship or you're working with someone who is a boss, so to speak. Most of the time people get damaged emotionally.
That's true.
Working for people, but they cannot talk about it because that is where they get their money. And as a result of that, you talk about it, it becomes a problem. In fact, it's part of the issues we have when it comes to rape. But that's another kettle of fish. So let's hear from you.
Okay, I would like to start with the fact that some people are toxic. I may not even know that they're actually toxic. Because if you're going to point out to someone that is toxic, you must also look within yourself and ask yourself who you truly are. And that's where self-awareness comes from. When you are self-aware, you are able to know your kind of person, and that's where the temperament, the personality comes in. So we have different people that has personality disorder. So by the time you don't understand yourself, by the time you don't know who you are, you're not aware of yourself, then you might find it difficult to be able to identify a toxic relationship. And just like I said earlier, that some people are toxic, but it's either they are living in denial, because people start to point out the things that you do, your reactions, your responses, the way you act, the way you behave. People start to point it out to you. So what are the signs? What are the things that you can really know when someone is toxic? One of the things that is paramount that I can say is controlling. Someone that is controlling. You want people to dance to your tune. You want people to do what you say. You don't want people to have their own view. You just want everybody to just bow to you and just obey you. So by the time you begin to see someone that you are in a relationship with, and just like we said, it's not just a romantic relationship. It has to do even from parents to children, colleagues in the office, even at times in the religious places. You have leaders. being controlling over their members. You have some people, they can't make a decision except they ask or receive maybe the go-ahead from their leader, that is spiritual leaders. So when you begin to find or begin to see those traces, and you now see that the person is being domineering, wants you to always obey or ask him or her before you make any decision, that's one of the signs that you are in a toxic relationship.
Okay, fantastic. Let's look at the work relationship. You've talked about being domineering, so to speak, dominion and all of that. Now, a boss at work would definitely want to control. How should it be done so that it would not be considered toxic? You know, you have to take permission to do certain things. Yes, but you actually made a point. You said, okay, that the other person doesn't want to hear views and all of that. So at what point should you balance it such that it will not become toxic to your subordinates?
All right. Okay, so that's a very good question. You know, when you have a boss, and that's why I said first that that's a place of self-awareness, knowing who you are, knowing how you also can handle things. When you also understand, and that's why when we talk about managing our emotions, we look at the aspect of the awareness, and it starts from the self-awareness. When I know who I am, I'm able to also look at the other person and understand who he or she is when it comes to the aspect of the person's temperament and maybe his or her personality. Okay, so when you have a boss that is probably controlling, you have to be wise to know how to deal with that person. Of course, you should be able to now differentiate if the controlling is damaging or is controlling you or giving you order because he or she expects a certain result from you. Okay, so that's when you should be able to, but if you don't understand how to be able to, if you don't understand your own self, if you don't understand how the other person thinks, knowing the person's personality and all of that, you might not be able to know the difference. So by the time you sit down, they're like, okay, he expects a result from me, so I should be able to give him the results. So it's not like he's trying to just control, that will be damaging. So when you now have a boss that what he says is now damaging the way you think, you are now it's now even draining your energy after spending time with that person. You now begin to see that is a damaging and unhealthy relationship. That's the controlling aspect is a damaging one.
All right, thank you so much. We'll go on a break now, but before then, there's something I would like Reverend Harrison to add, but that is going to be after the break. We are going to look at subordinates that can make you go crazy.
Yeah.
But we'll do that after this break. Please go nowhere.
Did you know that learning a digital skill can increase your chances of landing a high-paying job? UNESCO's definition of digital skill is a range of abilities to use digital devices, communication applications, and networks to access and manage information. They enable people to create and share digital content, communicate and collaborate, and solve problems for effective and creative self-fulfillment in life, learning, work, and social activities. Today, recruiters don't just look at certificates. They are looking for people with digital skills to help move their company forward. So let's dive into the top 5 employable skills. Social media. The ability to understand and use social media effectively is a core and value skill that every professional should have. Social media marketing goes beyond posting a tweet or Facebook update. It is about understanding the dynamic relationship between brands, influencers, and consumers. Data analytics. Data analytics essentially allow companies make educated and data-driven decisions to drive better business insights. Numbers define whether a campaign was successful and by what percentage. The key is knowing what data to collect and measure to improve the next campaign. Digital marketing. Digital marketing can be used to earn an income. Marketing is a great high-income skill with many sub-areas that you can specialize in to earn even more. They say niches make riches, and it is true. Companies want to hire a specialist when they need help with marketing. Some specific areas within digital marketing include online advertising, social media marketing, content marketing, email marketing, web design. Any online business needs designers to decide how their web pages should look. So if you are interested in technology or web business but don't want to learn to write code, you could consider learning web design instead. Web designers earn a lot of money both in Nigeria and overseas, so I consider it a high paying skill if working in tech seems interesting to you. Graphics design. A graphics designer creates posters, bus wraps, billboards, packaging, logos, and marketing materials depending on the industry. Graphic designers work at magazines, advertising and marketing agencies, and more.
All right, thanks for being there. This is your viewpoint. We're still talking about how to deal with toxic relationships. And of course, I have in the studio Titilola Olufemi, an emotional wellness expert, and Reverend Harrison Ifeanyichukwu. We're talking about issues surrounding toxic relationship. Now, the other time, we were talking about bosses and subordinates, superiors and what do you call them? Now, at some point, we see where people working under somebody, subordinate, so to speak, they're trying to be stubborn, they're trying to be adamant, things they're supposed to do, they don't do it, then people feel, okay, the boss will have to change his method of dealing with them. What do you have to say to that?
Like my sister said, that one of the major signs of toxic relationship is possessiveness. I will add to that that there are people we call guilt inducers. They make you feel guilty. Now, most subordinates, when there is job description, this is what you should do, this is what you should not do. If a boss goes ahead to enforce those things, I don't think it's toxic. But some of these guilt inducers, they will tell you, my boss is too tight, my boss is too harsh. But there is a rule. You have been given the work ethics of that particular organization. They've told you this is what you should do, this is what you should not do. For instance, some companies have clocking in and clocking out. Now, if you have those things and the boss have said this is our time, follow it. And if you didn't come and he rolls out some punitive measures, I don't think it's toxic. So for those people, I think we should balance order and harshness. That is what we are saying. Balance order. The boss want to bring order into the office, and the other one is calling it harshness. No, okay. I don't agree.
Being too strict become toxic?
Yes.
How?
Yes.
Being too strict. How? In what regard? You're trying to maintain an order. You have said that. You're trying to maintain an order. This is how it should be done. When you do it like this, it brings results. And you want to be consistent with that order. Maintaining that order.
Okay.
So at what point does it become?
There is what we call work to rule. Work to rule is everybody resumes 7 and everybody closes 5. But if you look at the human management thing, you discover that there are sometimes there is an emergency. That emergency entails that I will not close by 5. When my boss becomes too harsh, that you must close by 5, even when you know that I have to go because there's an emergency on part of the employee now, so you insist. If there is any other days like a company emergency and it is 5, what do? I close by 5. That's work to rule. I'm working according to the rules. So there are sometimes some bosses put their rule in such a way that they don't consider the humanity in rules. Every rule has a side that considers humanity. I have a bad leg and you are expecting me to produce what I used to produce when I have the 2 legs working perfectly well. I don't know whether you're getting me. So what we are saying is there is a place for orderliness and there is a place for humanity.
All right, let's look at what you mentioned the other time. You call some people guilt inducers.
Yes.
Yes. Titilola, what you have to say to that? You're an emotional wellness expert, and this would have something to do with emotion.
Yes.
How does it work?
Okay, so when you look at that word guilt inducers, these are the kind of people that make you feel less of yourself. They make you feel like you are not doing enough. They make you feel like what you have done, it's even when you are right, even when you have done something right, even when you have obeyed every rule, they still come to make you feel like you have not done enough.
What if you have not done enough?
Okay, what if
And
you
they
are not
tell
done
you
enough?
you have not done enough.
That's a different ball
Then
game.
that's not
Okay.
making, yes.
So it is when you're doing enough and they make you feel you're not doing
You are
enough.
not doing enough.
Okay, so when you begin to, when you now find someone that is now putting you in that state, even when you know that you have done all your best, you are putting all efforts to ensure that the work is being done, and they still look down on you. They still look like, all of this thing can stem up from maybe envy or jealousy. Okay, so when you begin to have someone, a subordinate can have a boss that is jealous of him or her, probably because of the way you work, your work ethics. You have this touch of excellence in your work, and probably the boss does not have that kind of touch. So even when you present something, and to you are like so joyous that, oh, I've done my work, and you present it to your boss, and your boss is still saying, no, there are still some things to still do here, you have not been able to cross these T's, you have not been able to dot these I's, and to you are like, you have done all your best to ensure that it's been done. So when you begin to see people like that, then you begin to know that, no, this relationship, it's a sign. It's a sign.
All right, let's take it to homes. Let's take it
Okay.
to the family setting. And I don't know if you both will disagree with that, what I want to talk about, and that's the issue of submission.
Okay.
Submission at home. As a reverend, what is your position on submission at home? The man is the head of the house. At what point does it become toxic? At what point does it make the marriage toxic?
I read a book many years ago, She That Must Be Obeyed. It's a novel, very long time ago. Now, nobody should be she that must be obeyed. Nobody should be commander-in-chief in the house. You said submission from the Christian Bible.
Yes,
That's
I'm
the
asking you
place-
as a reverend.
That place that submission was written,
Yes.
the first thing that was written is, submit therefore yourself one to another. There is a mutual submission. And if we want to take it, wife submit to the husband, there was an injunction to the men. Men, love your wives. Love them to submission. The truth is, when you are saying submit to me, have you loved the woman enough for her to submit to you? That's the truth. So we have to tell ourselves the basic truth, that submission is relative to how you love this woman. The same thing, love is relative to how this woman submits to you.
So we should come first.
Both pari passu.
Can both come at the same time?
Yes, the woman should be doing her own, the man should be doing
Lola,
his
as
own.
an emotional, emotions cannot be different at the same time.
Yes.
Can it be? So what I'm asking that is it possible to have both of them do those two things at the same time?
Okay.
As an emotional wellness expert, is that possible? We should come first. You said both should come first. What is your take on that?
Okay, for every reaction there is an act.
Okay.
So if both wouldn't come together, why am I expecting something from the other person? So if the other party is not ready to give, so why is he or she expecting from me? So I agree with the fact that they have to go together, because when I understand my own role and you understand your own role, we are two individuals. Yes, when we talk about maybe married couples, yes, under the injunction of God, they are now one. However, we are still different entities. So will you play your part while I play my part? Then we'll meet at the center point.
All right. Remember, you can be a part of the discussion by dropping your comments on our social media platforms on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And of course, you can see some other episodes of this program, Your Viewpoint, on that platform, on those platforms. The handle is at Your Viewpoint. Of course, after the next break, we will be taking your calls, and of course, you will see the lines showing on your screen. Now, let's look at it again. You said both should come at the same time. But then some people believe that one should come first. Some would have said, okay, the man should love first. Yes, and after that, the wives would submit and all of that. Now, let's look at some other issues.
Can I say
At
something
what
on
point?
that?
Yes.
Okay, wait. Like the man coming first.
Okay.
It is not the woman that woos the man.
Yes, the man would.
The man
woman.
woos the woman.
So
that is the level that I would say the love comes first. It is what I love. It is the way I love you that will determine whether you respond to me.
Okay.
So I think in
All
that
right.
context now the love should come
I
first.
think some other issues with that is, love seem to have different connotations today. The way it's perceived. We're going to talk about how love is perceived in the past and now. What is love now? What is love? So at some point, and in some cases, some people, the way they perceive submission is also different. But the question I asked the other time is, at what point does submission becomes toxic? Asking for submission becomes toxic in a marriage, which has always been a problem.
Yes.
Titila.
Okay. All right. Just as if you are going to base it on the word.
No. You can look at it from different
yes, angle. Okay.
From your profession.
All right. So when we talk about submission, of course, submission in the context of the marriage relationship, right?
Yes.
Okay. So in the context of the marriage relationship, our culture, especially in this part of the world, the African culture, based on what some people, don't let me say everybody, based on what some people as they grew up to know or grew up to see or what was modeled to them. So a lot of people have seen that there is a demand. So there is this demand, there is this thing about this is what you have to do. So it's kind of it's a kind of aggression, it's a kind of control, it's a kind of just being submissive, having someone like a boss over you in the house. So this is what has probably been modeled to some people.
Sorry to cut you. There was a time somebody said the man is the master in the house. A popular leader. What do you have to say to that?
Yes, there's in every ship there can be two masters, definitely. So, and of course we know
and
that
somebody has to submit to somebody.
Yes, the head is the head. I mean, the husband is the head of the home. Like we say that when we now have the general family, the father is the head of the family. Okay. However, the father being the head of the family, if things are going to work out well, there has to be a kind of listening to every other person, getting to have a view or getting to know the opinion of the other person. So I think it also boils down to understanding. So when both parties understand their role, just like I said earlier, so if the husband understands and the wife also understand the role of her husband in the home, so there won't be this tussle of power. No, we are the same and all of those things. So that understanding helps the family or helps the couple to be able to submit. That is, maybe the wife submitting to whatever it is that the husband has given as maybe a rule or injunction in the family. However, you know that we are in different generations.
Yes.
So generation after generation, things are changing. And you see the way some people, when they now come together, they give it their own understanding, their own definition of how a marriage should be like. So you have the husband still as in asking for his wife's opinion about something before making a decision. That does not make him less of a man. That does not make him less of himself. But understanding the fact that we are two in this boat. So for this boat to go in the right direction, we have to cooperate. We have to do it together. Okay? And maybe these are some of the things that it's not obtainable maybe in the past, or maybe looking at maybe our parents in the past and all of that. Of course, not everybody, not all.
In-laws at some point can say, oh, you're not a man.
Okay.
You have to tell your wife everything and all of that.
Yeah, that's where the place of understanding also comes in.
Exactly.
And the man owing the fact that this is my home.
Yeah.
This is my jurisdiction.
All right, let's look at parent-children. Parent-children, you want to train your child. You don't want him or how to get sport and all of that. At what point does it become toxic? Parents and children.
We still go back to the controlling behavior. Every child is unique. The problem we have is that our parents, number one, they want to correct their mistake through their children. Because of that, they move them, they push them beyond their limit, beyond their capacity. Number two, parents think that their children own them, that they own their children.
Okay.
O-W.
Yes, O-W-N,
yes, they own their children.
Don't
but they
they?
don't.
Okay.
No, they don't. They actually steward. That's why the Bible said, train up a child in the way, T-H-E, specific way. Each child has his or her own way. But most times, parents try to force. For instance, let me give you an example as I round up. There's this girl they gave an arts girl, and they gave her industrial maths in Uniben. She went there and she failed woefully. I was in a conference in Benin and I brought her back. She cried from Benin to Lagos. I was like, what were you thinking? An art student going to do industrial maths? That's madness. He said, hey, that's what they gave me. I said, they gave you, you should have rejected it. Must you collect everything? So our parents want to correct their mistakes. We don't have a doctor, we don't have a lawyer. You are going to be the doctor, not minding whether the child have that capacity. Before you know, they become controlling, forcing the children to do what they don't want to do.
All right, thank you so much. You've been able to explain that. Let's look at relationships, romantic relationships now, whether marriages or dating and all of that, where the other party is passive. The other party does not really talk about issues, does not contend, does not argue, and all of that. What is your take? Can that affect emotionally? You're an expert in that area. Whatever he says, I'm fine. If he says yes, it is yes. If he says no, no. Then at some point, it might be an issue for the person that decides. What's your take? Can that lead to toxic issues? Can it be toxic in any way?
When a relationship gets to that point, it's actually, there's an underlying issue. When when two people are in a relationship and the other person is not talking, and the other person too is expecting him or her to say something.
Absolutely.
It's emotionally draining. Especially when the person that is expectant that I am saying something, I need a feedback. It can be emotionally draining. And for the other person, it can be the fact that maybe he's just trying to avoid trouble. Maybe there has been times that he or she has said something and it has been taken against him, and maybe such things has been reoccurring. So rather than talk, at times, especially in a romantic relationship, that's maybe marital relationship or dating relationship, you want to be careful. You don't want to hurt your partner. You don't want to hurt the other person. And maybe when the other party, or maybe when there's someone that is always at the defensive as inside, when you have someone that is always defensive and all of that, the other party would want to keep quiet, because at that point in time there is no communication.
Should that happen? Should you keep quiet in that regard? Would you ask people?
Yes.
What should they do in that regard?
Okay, at that point in time, of course, there's always a time, there's always a time that people are always calm. So there is need for confrontation. There is need to ask the person, when you see that the person is in that state of calmness, then you can now talk it out. That it's time to talk this thing out. I realize that these are the things that you normally happens when we want to discuss issue. Two people should understand that they are not attacking each other, but they want to address the issue. So when we have that understanding, there will be, that defensive mode. You kind of tame it down a little. So you listen to the other party, then the other party explains himself or herself, then the same thing with the other person too. So that's when you now have that place of understanding, then you'll be able to address the issue rather than attacking yourself or your person.
All right, we'll go on this break. Remember, you can be a part of the discussion. When we are back from this break, you'll be able to call in and of course send in text messages to the numbers showing on your screen. We have something for you in the world of sport, and right after that we'll take you to the streets where people had something to say about toxic relationship. We'll be back. Please go nowhere.
Today, we are taking you down memory lane of the victorious triumphs achieved by some top Nigerian players in basketball. 2012 and 2015 will remain indelible in the memory of basketball fans in Nigeria, as those years represent the biggest success stories for the country's national team, the Tigers. In 2012, Nigeria's national team, the Tigers, was qualified to represent the continent at the Olympics for the very first time. 2015 was the year they won their first ever Afrobasket title, defeating Angola and Senegal on the way to the title. However, the hard work for those triumphs were planted way back in the 60s and 70s when giants among men started the revolution of the game. Emmanuel Chagu started his career in 1964 and 1973 when he played as a point-shooting guard for Kagoro Cyclones, Abuja Potters, Benue Plateau Peaks and Benue Braves in the Nigeria Amateur Basketball League. Emmanuel Chagu is a product of Government Secondary School Abuja and a member of the victorious North Team, national champions in 1969. In April 1968, he made his official international debut in Benin Republic, Port Novo. He was the first player in Nigeria to display the flair usually associated with Americans with his flashy ball handling. He was renowned for his ability to push the ball off the floor, his no-look passes and his penetration. Although the last days of Chagu's career was seemingly interesting as he had his final game for Nigeria at the second All-Africa Games in Lagos, Nigeria in 1973. Joe Gaba. Joe Gaba was a recognized officer in the Nigerian Army and could well be credited with the title of Father of Nigeria Basketball, because of the roles he played in developing the game both as a player and as an administrator. Baba became the president of the Nigeria Amateur Basketball Association (NABBA) in 1970, and this opened up an opportunity as he revolutionized the game. In 1971, he invited American stars Oscar Robertson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar to Nigeria, further enhancing the popularity of the game. In the book Basketball in Africa, written by Salvatore Badarem, Gaba was listed as Nigeria's best player. In 1965, Gaba was the star of the Nigerian team which took part in its first international tournament in Fernando Po, now Equatorial Guinea. Yomi Sangwadeyi joined the Nigerian basketball scene after the likes of Adelanwa and Habibu Obandake. Yomi Basket remains the country's first and best center of the modern era. He was also Nigeria's first full-time professional basketball player. The story of Hakeem Olajuwon, without doubt Nigeria's biggest ever basketball star, will not be complete without a recital of the impact Sangwadeyi had on his career. A shy and unassuming young Olajuwon learnt his ropes as the protege of Yomi Basket at Ogun Rocks. Sangwadeyi also played NCAA ball at Sam Houston State University, Texas, and was taken in the third round of the 1984 NBA draft by the New Jersey Nets. He is presently in retirement in Brazil. Hakeem Olajuwon. Hakeem Olajuwon is without doubt one of the most successful basketball players to come out of Africa. Hakeem's luck shone bright when he was drafted into the junior national team, where he was seen by an American scout, who recommended him to Coach Guy Lewis of the University of Houston. That moment defined his career into basketball. The Houston Cougars, as the college team was called, made 3 trips to the NCAA Final Four with Olajuwon, but lost 2 consecutive finals in 1983 and 1984. Still, Olajuwon was named the 1983 NCAA Tournament Player of the Year, even though he played for the losing team. Houston Rockets made him the #1 overall pick in the 1984 NBA draft, and he led the Rockets to back-to-back NBA championships in 1994 and 1995. In 2008, he was inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame, and in 2016 he was inducted into the FIBA Hall of Fame.
You don't stay in a toxic relationship. You don't start negotiating within. You stay from afar and begin to discuss. So if the relationship is toxic, it can kill you. So the best thing is to work out a plan. And if you cannot address it from afar, then you depart from it. You don't need to stay there and die. I'm a Christian, right? I'm a believer, and this is what we normally do. I was saying the church should begin to talk about it. You know, we say God hates divorce. That's not what we say. The Bible says God hates divorce. Now, but God also hates violence. So I think we should begin to preach about God hates violence as he hates divorce. So normally when we say God hates divorce, it begins to sound like a blackmail. So somebody comes and says, no, God hates divorce, so stay in the relationship. No, but I think we should begin to discourage people staying in toxic relationship. If it's not working, the person should depart. I'm not talking about divorce, but you can separate and negotiate from afar. So not staying there and die. You hear of cases like the case where the wife kills the husband kills the wife. So it's because they don't know when to run. When I mean the word run here is when to depart. So I think people should speak more and encourage those who are in such relationship to speak out and stand out of such relationship. That's my own advice. When you see the signs, toxic relationship is not happenstance. It's a gradual process. You begin to see the traces of toxic relationship from the way he relates or she relates with you, from the way he acts, certain things, all those mannerisms, you begin to see it. So it doesn't just happen. It starts from a place. So when you begin to see those signs, it's time for you to begin to, retrace your steps. So I think you don't just wait until it falls on you. When you see the traces, you also begin to, retrace your step backward.
Gather as much of strength you can and just live. Just live. Gather so much strength you can to live. Just live. The thing is that you're in a toxic relationship, you are not even happy. So what's the point? Just gather so much strength that you can and just live. That's just it. Gather as much. I know it's not easy. It's not easy. But just gather as much strength you can and just live. Just live. Let it just be on your head that I want to live, I want to live, I want to live. Just take a step first and every other thing will fall in place. Okay, you want to stay because of those children. What if you die? So what will now happen to those children? Just live. Before you know, help will come. There's not even help in where you are. So what is the point of staying? You are not even in a good frame of mind. So how are you even raising those children well? Those children are not even happy seeing you in a toxic relationship. So what are we talking about? It's just that most of them, there's no strength and all of that. Just get positive vibe from people. Even if there's no positive vibe coming from people, within yourself, just strengthen yourself and live, honestly. That's it, just live. Because my own is that what if you die? That's it, that's all.
Every relationship has a foundation. And just as the word of God says, if the foundation be destroyed, he said, what can the righteous do? Before it ever gets to that, how did you get into the relationship? Did you make inquiries that you should have made, decisions that you ought to have made? Did you get to know the person you are entering into relationship with? Did you get to know the family, the background of that person? So you must have to get it right from the start. That is the beginning. Get it right from the start before you will have a condition that will make it difficult for you to move away from the marriage. Yes, my advice to them is when you see that it has become something you cannot condone, you can take a leave. At least get back to your home, your house, or get a place, stay for some time and observe things, look at, check if actually there's going to be a change, and so that because you live, to live is the first thing, because if you continue in a relationship that will kill you, that will not be to your advantage. So you can take a leave, cool off, observe things, and be sure that actually there's a change, and be very, very careful. Don't just go enter into a relationship because there's something that's your target. Because if your target is money, wealth, name, and you get it, and you don't know what is following at the back. So the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom, as the Bible says. Check it out with the word of God and make sure that the relationship you are into accords with the word of God. I'm sure that you'll be fine with God guiding you.
My name is Engineer Elvis Omowoje.
All right, thank you so much for being there. We're still talking about how to deal with toxic relationship. Remember, you can join the conversation by calling the line showing on your screen. Remember to tell us your name and your location, and of course, turn down the volume on your TV set. Now, the other time we were talking about a number of things. This time around, we want to look at why people still stay in toxic relationships. Now, let's look at it from the marriage angle, where we have both men and women, and they still stay in those marriages that are toxic to them. What do you have to say? Despite the fact that most religious leaders do not agree to divorce. I know some of them talk about separation, but is that the best solution, Reverend?
Toxicity is something that's harmful to your survival. The Bible said God hates divorce. I agree. But the Bible also says that it is not the will of God that any should perish. So, saying that religion is supporting divorce, supporting toxicity, is not always true. There are structures in the church that have been put in place to settle issues of misunderstandings, toxicity. The problem we have with toxicity is that many people don't talk. I don't know why they don't talk. I think one of the reasons why they don't talk is you look at them because of the stigma. Nobody has left their marriage in this family. Nobody has ever done that in this church. And you stay, not because the church wanted you to stay. Because I am a senior pastor in Church of God Mission, and to the glory of God, I can't remember condoning. I have zero tolerance for violence or toxicity in any relationship.
So at
marriage,
what point would you ask people to leave?
When there is threat to life. Threat to life comes in two ways. It can be emotional threat to life, because sometimes when we say threat to life, it is not when you start beating me. Depression is more of an emotional thing than a physical thing. What you told me, let me take it to the personality things now. The phlegmatics and the melancholy, they may not talk. They will withdraw. The sanguine and the choleric can just, I will kill you, I will leave you. They push it out. But these other two, they pull it inside, and when they pull it inside, it affects a whole lot of things. And then I comes to her and say, look at what I'm going through. He say, you, a pastor, don't even say it out. I bottle up. And before you know it, the person is dead. So what I suggest is, when it comes to the level of threat to life, threat to your emotional wellness, threat to your physical wellness, the best thing to do is separation. Leave that toxic environment and be trying to settle it from a distance. Not staying in that, because one day you just wake up. I have a video on my phone. The guy was just sitting down like this, drinking what he was drinking. Before you know, he carried fuel and poured on himself, light himself up. You think that is started? No.
But if somebody can do that, is it still possible that solving some issues at distance would work?
Yes, it will. Solving it at distance, I mean,
why I'm
talk to
asking
people.
this is because, some people still think of what that person is doing to them. They know they are still entangled to that person, even if it's not physical. But emotionally, they are not okay. In fact, that lady has been beaten and blue, black and all of that, and we are asking them to separate. Yes, they are living apart. I'm sure that is the separation you are talking about. So my question is, will that still solve the problem?
Separation is not living to go and stay and do nothing. When I say separation, when you are separated, you are looking for help. You go for counseling. It could be mutual counseling. It could be personal counseling. That is when I say individual counseling. Now that is, you go differently, and the counselor can invite both of you. So what we are saying is, you don't just separate and stay. You separate and look for help. When the help you're looking for is not working, you can look for a permanent separation. So far it's threatening your survival ability.
All right, some girls will say, I'll push this to Silola. Some girls will say they prefer to cry in Lexus SUV, Mercedes-Benz and all of that, than to smile on on keke or bike and all of that. Trying to say that they prefer somebody who is rich, even if that person is toxic. What's your take on that?
And that's why we see a lot of stories of people dying and all of that. Okay, so that comes from the fact that lack of good self-esteem.
Yes.
Not knowing your value, not knowing your worth.
That is
Believing that it's only money that can give you your life meaning, and it is riches that can add value to you. So that stems from the fact that a lot of people don't understand their worth. So if you know your worth, you won't stay in a toxic relationship all because you want to smile or for the Instagram and all of that, and you want to just pose and just have the pictures
Instagram
everywhere.
and Facebook in-laws.
Exactly. So you have the social media as your in-laws.
Wow. All right, let's quickly take some messages here. Fibo Obioma says the truth is bitter, but women suffer the most in toxic relationship. They are held spellbound. My religion, my family, society to stay put in the relationship. It is a pity, but I pray that God gives women who are in a toxic relationship the strength to find their voice and exist such a relationship. Chidera says, in my opinion, women need to wake up and stop becoming collateral damages in toxic relationships. Ladies need to set standard for themselves before getting involved in any relationship. Study their partner very keenly before being fully involved in a relationship. Churchill says, I think parents need to teach their children, both girls and boys, but particularly boys, how to treat a lady, and the girls how she should be treated by a man. Some parents are the cause of this toxic relationship that we are talking about. All right, what's your take on that? That you need to train your boys on how to, they have this orientation that yes, I'm the man of the, I'm the boy, I'm the in fact. Okay.
Yes, I was going to say
seconds.
that. Thanks, at least thankful for those that came in with those texts about the fact that a woman, before going into any relationship, you ask yourself, what value am I taking into that relationship? So when you know the value you are taking, the guy or the man that is bringing you in will respect you. Okay. So when we now look at the fact that a lot of people, things are actually changing because of the awareness now that we need to train the boys. Then you see the boys, they are in the sitting room, their legs are on the table. So it's the girls that are actually being trained. Even when it looks like maybe let me put it like they are suffering, suffering like that in quotes, but they are actually taming them or training them. Even when you see some people that maybe they are live-in maybe guests, and they are now allowing the girl to work more, maybe your sister, your niece or whatever, you are training, unknowingly you are training the girl. And that's why you see women today, some women, they are multitasking. They can do a lot of things. But we have the men, they just want to sit down and lounge.
We have said a lot about this topic, toxic relationship, how to deal with it. Thank you so much for being a part of the discussion. I want to thank my guests for coming on the show.
Thank you this afternoon.
Be sure to join us next time, same station. Be good, stay out of toxic relationship. I am Rotimi Akintunde. Bye for now.